Pat Boone here for the folks at Swiss America. Rock-solid foundations are vital in life, in business, and in finance because, in the end, only what we've built on a firm foundation will withstand the storms of life. Today, the economic storms are raging and the foundations of everything are being tested. The world economy has never looked shakier. And gold, the world's oldest and most trusted form of money, is also grabbing headlines. Now is the time to put your future on a rock-solid foundation. Swiss America will help you create an indestructible asset today. Discover the timeless truth about gold and silver by calling Swiss America or visiting online at SwissAmerica.com.
Call 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199.
Welcome to one of the most listened to music news podcasts in the world, SGNP, with your host, Darien Southerland. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, artists, and entertainers about their faith, family, and careers. This is information you will not find anywhere else on radio, web, or in a magazine, but only firsthand on SGNP.
Gotta grow gospel music. What are you saying to them, Rob?
First and foremost, if I'm in this make-believe room with all these people, I'm not saying a word. I'm smart enough not, because all of those folks that you just talked about are 10 times smarter than I am.
And welcome back to SGNP. Another day, another week. On the line with me is my buddy up in Sevierville, Tennessee. The heart of the Great Smoky Mountains is where he's at in the foothills. Arthur Rice. Arthur, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing great.
How's it going with the Kingdom Airs up here these days? I mean,
going good, man. We've had a great month at the park, and everybody's. We had great crowds. Got some great artists at park, this month, and got one more week of it.
It's Harvest Festival. Tell folks up there what Harvest Festival is and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, it's basically, Dollywood started this. I'm trying to remember how many years now we're in to close to almost 20 years, I guess, that we've been having this at Dollywood, and they basically dedicate the whole month of October to Southern Gospel Music Month. And we have the who's who of groups coming in, and it's probably one of the biggest months of the year. Probably minus Christmas, maybe. Christmas may bump up close to it, but as far as attendance wise, it's one of our biggest months.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot, okay? I'm gonna put you. You love when I do this, anyway.
Well, that's just normal.
Yeah. We'll put you on the spot. What group and full-time traveling group have you seen up there at Dollywood this Harvest Festival season that you just stood back and said, "Wow, man, they're just getting better and better"?
Well, we had a great turnout for the McCameys, of course. Because people trying to get their last view in of them with their retirement coming up, and so that's always, and they just do such a great job. And now
let me ask you this. Okay, this is just me and you talking, and this is what we do here. This is why people listen to our podcast. Peg and Reuben are retiring, and the McCamey's name is retiring. Do you think Roger, Connie, and Eli are retiring?
I saw a post about that. Somebody asked Roger about it, and I think he said that they were still, talking about it. So that means that it's probably not off the table if he's saying that. So, could it continue without Peg? I think so. I don't. Yeah. Their songs are always going to be still great. But,
right. Well, you know what? It's like this right here. There will never be another Cathedrals. There will never be another George and Glenn. Okay, let's just say that. There'll never be another Goodmans. Okay, there'll never be another McCamey's. Okay, there'll never be another Hensons. There'll never be another Crabb family as we knew them then.
Yeah.
There's just certain groups that set a precedent. You know, the Primitive are one that I reach out to right now, that I think about right now. There'll never be another Primitive. So even if Connie, Roger, and Eli go on, which I think they probably will in some capacity, it still won't be the McCameys, but it'll still be a great group because Connie, I think, has one of the most distinct and recognizable voices in all of gospel music. And you know this, being a musician and an engineer and a sound guy, take the singing away. There may not be two better musicians, father-son duo, in any kind of music. I'm not just talking about gospel music, than Eli and Roger. You know.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Eli's become a good friend of the show, and I think he's got the opportunity to be a pretty good spokesman if he really truly does, and he's one of the most respected young men in the business. So you mentioned the McCameys, very impressive there at Harvest Festival. Who else do you see?
Signature Sound was here just the other day, and of course they kill it every time every time they perform. They go, it's great. The Ball Brothers were here, and of course I love them.
Ball Brothers supposed to be with us pretty soon. I talked to Daniel the other week. They're going to get on
fantastic!
Yep.
Oh, that'll be great. Yep. That'll be great. Love those guys.
Okay, now the new groups that are coming out. There's a lot of new groups that show up at the Harvest Festival. I know you're real high on the Heath Brothers, but some other groups out there that you've seen that may have just you got to look at that you thought, wow, they're going to be coming along soon.
Wow. That's hard to say, really, because there's a bunch of them, man. I tell you, and I go by. I don't get to see a lot of times. I don't get to see their whole program. I kind of slip out, between hours, and try to catch a few here and there, to just to listen for a little bit.
Right.
And but man, it's like I go in and I'm like, man, they're good. And then I go to the next one. I go, well, they're good too. I mean, there's some great artists coming on.
No doubt.
Really are.
No doubt. And a lot of good folks up there and a lot of good things happening up there. A lot of good things happening in gospel music as a whole. I want to tell you in open mic, thank you for last week working with us on the Russ Taff interview. And folks, that movie comes out this Tuesday night, I believe it is, the 30th. It's a one-night showing. You can go online to Fathom Events. That's FATHOM Events. And enter your zip code, and they'll tell you where the movie is being shown. I've saw the movie. I got a free copy of it. I forwarded it to Arthur. I'm not going to put him on the spot and ask him if he's watched the movie yet. But, Arthur, that interview was something that wouldn't have transpired in gospel music when you first started.
Probably not. But I think it's going to reach a lot of folks. I did watch it, and y'all need to go see it. You really need to go see it, and for a couple of reasons. I think people need to see what's real and what's going on, and what we can all be watch. How Satan can use just the simplest things a lot of times to move us away from where we should be.
Yeah.
And another reason they should go see it is to support and show this film company that, hey, there's there's some people that want to see stuff like this and that will air some of these movies.
Yep.
And so I think they need to support it.
I mean, I'd love to see more. Could you imagine a movie on George and Glenn's life? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Or a movie on Vestal's life?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, those would be great films. I would pay to go see them. I'd pay.
Yeah,
I'd pay.
Absolutely.
Or so let Fathom Events do well with this movie, and then we'll talk to Mr. Gaither and get him to produce some Vestal movies and George and Glenn. Maybe we can hit him up on that if we get the opportunity to talk to him anytime soon. Does that sound like a deal? Hey, one thing I want to add in before we talk about who we've got coming on today. Folks, you heard last week when we interviewed Russ Taff, him talk about his bout with alcoholism. Well, the Addiction Helpline is a new advertiser with us, and I want you to call them. If you've got a friend or family member, or if you just need information for a cousin or a friend or a family member, you're going to hear the commercial in just a second. We're going to play it, so be ready to take down that number. But all you have to do is call them, 1-800-980-1761. Pick up the phone. just call them. I called them, okay? Arthur, in all honesty, I called them and told them I had a cousin that was addicted to drugs. What would she need to do to get help? The federal government this past week just signed a bill. Republicans and Democrats got together. Can you believe that, Arthur, that Republicans and Democrats actually got together?
Yeah.
$8 billion they're going to spend on addiction. You're in East Tennessee. You see it every day. I'm in Metro Atlanta. I see it every day. Call, if nothing else, just for the info. 1-800, that's 800-980-1761. You'll hear the commercial in just a second again before we do the interview with Rob Patz coming up. Speaking of Rob Patz and Creekside, the big event coming up that runs alongside the Harvest Festival, a lot of groups come up there, everybody from the part-time groups, the bivocational groups, the full-time groups. C.T. Townsend will be preaching at Creekside. And our own Arthur Rice, believe it or not, folks, Arthur, are you old enough to get a Living Legend Award? They're giving you a Living Legend Award Monday night, man. What about that?
That's awesome. I was really just I don't know what to say. I'm so honored to be chosen. I've always been a prepared loser, so. But I'm really honored. It really is. It's the first time I've actually been presented something on my own that wasn't group oriented. Nice. And so yeah, I'm excited about it. I really am.
Monday night, and folks, just so you'll know, I've already interviewed Rob about this award and all the information, and you're going to hear it in just a second. I wouldn't let Arthur do the interview with me because I didn't want him to be non-surprised when they got him up there next Monday night. Now, this will come out on Friday. Arthur will be presented the award on Monday. Of course, he could listen this weekend, and he might, and ruin the surprise. But let's just hope he don't. But anyway, so Rob tells us about that. Rob's a good guy. He is a good guy.
Yeah.
And the thing, here's what I love about interviews like this, Arthur, is the unique perspective I get is I hear through the talk box, you may say, or through rumors or the rumor mill or through email or through so-and-so that so-and-so's like this other person's like this, and when you actually talk to them, you're like, wow, they're nothing like this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is a genuine man with a heart for ministry and a heart for God, and he's going at it a different way, and he's reaching folks, and he's promoting a lot of the up-and-coming groups. I'll give you an example. I mean, he promotes groups that are singing with him at Creekside today that in a few years are going to be on the main stage at the National Quartet Convention. Think about it, 11th Hour, with folks like Grant Gibson started out with him. Now they're over at the National Quartet Convention singing on a regular basis with their group. And Grant's graduated, but he's now with Karen Peck and New River and one of our favorite listers. So there's a lot of good things happening, and it's a way for a lot of groups to get noticed that sometimes time doesn't permit at other big things to come on. And it's a good interview. So let's go to that interview. Remember the addiction hotline, 1-800-980-1761. We'll play a commercial right then. And we'll go to the interview with Rob Patz, and Arthur and I will be right back after that interview right here on SGNP.
Hey, I'm Karen Peck Gooch with Karen Peck and New River, and you're listening to the best in gospel music right here on SGNP.
Is someone you love playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Hey, this is Darren, and I'm going to tell you some personal information. I've got dear friends who are addicted to methamphetamines. I've got family members who overdosed from heroin and passed away. I've got relatives who suffer alcohol addiction and are alcoholics. You've heard from Russ Taft talk about his problem with alcoholism. Addiction is a scary thing. Anywhere in the country you think about it, addiction's a big problem. Right now, the Addiction Hotline wants to help you and your family. And with the new federal Family Medical Leave Act, you can get the help you deserve. Call the addiction hotline today, 1-800-980-1761, 1-800-980-1761, and talk to them about the help you, your friends, or your family may need. Heck, over 43,000 people die every year from drug overdose. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. 1-800-980-1761. 1-800-980-1761. If Russ Taff can stand on stage and then later admit, hey, I've got a problem with alcoholism, you can too. Get the help you deserve, and I promise you, your heart will be so much happier for it, not to mention your family and friends.
This is Josh Singletary with Tribute Quartet, and you're listening to SGNP.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darien Southerland here with you. And as I said in our opening monologue today, Arthur's getting an award from Creekside, a Living Legend Award, or a Lifetime Achievement Award, which means he's getting old. And the gentleman responsible over at Creekside and SGN Scoops and all that kind of good stuff is the one and only Rob Patz. Rob, how you doing today, my friend?
Hey, Darren, thank you so much for having me on the show today. And yeah, all kinds of stuff. Actually, the award is really kind of a neat thing, and we're honored that we get to honor. That's a lot of honor there.
Yeah.
Arthur this year, and actually Dr. Jerry Goff puts it together. He actually comes up with a list and kind of goes through it with his close confidants, and they picked Arthur Rice this year, and so we just think it's going to be a lot of fun. And so it's Dr. Jerry Goff honors. It's a part of SGN Scoops magazine, and we do it at Creekside. And he is going to be the Goff Living Legend this year. And of course, you have to be living to win it. So somebody asked me what you had to have, and I said, well, first and foremost, you got to be living. Yeah. Because of the Living Legend thing. But no, we're excited, and of course, Creekside coming up starting this Sunday, the 28th through November 1st. So, and Arthur's event on Monday night, tickets have been going like crazy for that. And we're excited, man. It's going to be a great time. Arthur, of course, a fantastic man. Just to kind of look through the things he's done and worked so tirelessly on for our industry, he's well deserving of this year's award.
Arthur's a good man. He's been a good partner with us since about when we started. I mean, when we started out, Dr. Jeff Steele was our partner, and then Jeff bowed out because of work and other commitments and that sort of thing. And Arthur... It was funny, Rob. Arthur called me one day and said, hey, if you ever need somebody to step in there with you, I'd love to do it. I've never done anything like that. So we, of course, jumped at the opportunity to work with Arthur. And we've got to do it for the past, I guess, 6 months now that SGNP's been going on. Enough about us, though, Rob. Rob, tell the folks, I don't want to say you're relatively new, But to the gospel music enthusiast, people know who you are and they know who your magazine is. But, we get listeners from all gamuts out there. For the country music listener that likes gospel music. Cool. We get the listener that, wants to hear, I don't know, Leonard Skinner do a gospel song. We get from all over the place. Tell folks a little bit about Rob, how he got involved in gospel music, a little bit about your magazine, and a little bit about Creekside. Sure. Could you do that for us?
I sure can, Darren. Well, it's a really kind of a neat story. I was going to school, and I knew that I wanted to do something. My dad was a pastor, and I felt called to do something in Christian ministry or in that field. Didn't know if it was going to be a pastor or what that field was going to be. And God started making it clearer and clearer through different things, through a different set of circumstances that happened. And I ended up leaving one Bible school, which they've asked me not to use their name, even though they now call me an alumni. And left that school and was in a transition period. Yeah, long story.
Hey. We're not softy radio folks. We're a podcast. Can you at least give us the part of the country they were in, Rob?
The part of the country, yes, they were in the Northwest. Okay. That's about probably legally all I can say.
Okay. There you go.
And it was a great school, and they've been so nice. And since then, and I tease them about calling me an alumni now because I get to go back and I speak to their broadcast school every once in a while. And so it's kind of fun. But I was probably the shortest alumni there. But went and was in a transition period, was getting ready to go to school again, and ended up going back to school into a broadcast school, into a broadcast university, getting a degree in broadcasting. And during that period of time, my father was a local pastor, but also had an evangelistic radio show that was heard on 119 stations throughout the United States. And I would go with him, and I loved radio, and I loved the idea of radio. And one day I was having lunch with my family, and they said, they've got an opening at the radio station. You should apply, which I'm thinking was, we're tired of giving you money, and so you need to start making your own. But it was a roundabout way to do it. And so they did that, and I went there, and needless to say, probably the worst air check in the history of radio, maybe the history of radio, television, and anything else, telegraph and anything. It was awful. And so got the job because I think I was the only one that was breathing that actually applied, and went and started my career. That's 25 years ago this year that I started in broadcasting. Yeah. Very, very fortunate. I've done voice work for some national companies, some Fortune 500 companies. Worked for almost every major television network in the United States at one point or another, doing voice work or doing in front of camera work. So that's a little story of Rob Patz. Rob, though, when he was at the station, and speaking in the third person is always kind of scary, when I was working at that station, I had the opportunity to play Southern gospel music. They played it at this little radio station. They also promoted concerts, and the first concert that I got to go to was with the Neelands. And for reasons unbeknownst to me, Rex Neeland took a real liking to me. And he would write to me, and he sent me books about the history of Southern gospel. And then the next month, I met Claude Hopper, and we had the Hoppers in, and I was hooked. And I love these people, and Claude and their family are still great friends of mine. I'm honored to call them friends, and I'm very close with the Neelands, and they're just good people. And that was the hook in. I did a syndicated radio show for a while in Southern gospel, worked in almost every facet of the industry. In 2009, Dr. Alan Smith called me on the phone and said, I'm getting ready to retire. I need somebody to take over my newspaper, or my newspaper/magazine. And I had no real knowledge. I was running an internet radio station called SGM Radio, and I had no real knowledge of the print side of the world. Mm-hmm. And he said God told him that I was the person that he was supposed to sell it to. And the price was such a great price that I knew it was incredible. It was such a gift. We started there, SGNScoops.com, SGN Scoops magazine, and we were digital. He had such great forethought. He started downloads before really anybody was downloading anything back in 2009. Yeah. And now we still have the download. We have a print version also. And just everything kind of spun out of that. We post news all the time about what's going on in Southern gospel. And I just love the industry. I fell in love. Went to my first quartet convention in '94, and I was hooked ever since. I didn't want to leave. And so now I own a radio station in Alabama. I'm so hooked into this industry. You guys are never going to get rid of me.
Tell us a little bit about your big event, Creekside, coming up, and let's talk specifics when you get through that.
Sure. Creekside started 7 years ago this year, and another area of life where you say, I never planned to get here, but God puts things in your path ahead of time. Over the time, Darren, of being in the industry, I sat on boards for different events, learned a lot about how to create a convention-type atmosphere. And we needed a place for our Diamond Awards, which are a fan-based award that we do every year based out of the magazine. And we do that every year. And so on Tuesday night at Creekside, and we needed a place, a home for it. And I was on a beach in Washington State, and I was praying, and God just kind of opened up and revealed to me the things I needed to do. We came up with the idea of Creekside, And this is year number 7. It's grown every year. We're excited. We've got C.T. Townsend's going to be with us. He's going to preach on Tuesday and Wednesday. We're, of course, honoring Arthur on Monday. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we're just going to have a killer good time. It's a lot of fun. Our slogan is we are family, and that's kind of what we try to push with our convention and with the 4 days. Is it's almost like a family reunion. In fact, one of the artists that's going to be there called me this morning while I was working out. I was on the treadmill, and he goes, "I'm so excited because it's just like it's as good as my family reunion every year." And I thought that's exactly the feel that I want every year, as I want people to leave rejuvenated, ready for whatever it is God has for them in the next year. And that's kind of what my prayer has always been, is that we can use it like a beacon to send these artists out. We have over 50 artists every year that come and are a part of the event. And I want to send them back out and have them really make an impact on their world.
Right. Let me ask you this. You've got artists from every facet, so to speak, of the industry. Mm-hmm. You've got artists that have been involved a couple of years to artists that have been involved for numerous decades. You've got artists in names that have been around for decades, new artists that have come along. You've got full-time, part-time, bivocational. You've got evangelistic tryout. I mean, you name the type of artist. And the one thing I admire about Creekside is they're there. Okay.
Yep.
How are you received? Because this is a different concept than what other events are. Other events are, let's face it, let's bring the major names in, let's sell tickets, and boom, let's make it work. How is your concept different?
Well, I think there's so many great events like that, and you can list off every great promoter that's out in the industry, and they do a fantastic job of what they're doing. And really, when we looked at it 8 years ago, I went, this is the area that's not being serviced. This is a part of what is not being taken care of. And these artists are fantastic. Some of them that you're going to hear this year at Creekside, 5 years from now, you're going to say, the first place I ever heard them was Creekside. I had an artist come up to me last year and say, the first time I heard 11th Hour was at Creekside. I'd never heard of 11th Hour prior to that. Same thing with the Williamsons. I had people this year at another event come up to me. I was in Indiana, and they came up to me and said, you know what? I didn't even know who the Williamsons were until you had them at Creekside. Now I've got every one of their CDs, and I'm going down to Oklahoma for their homecoming. And I'm like, that's what I'm about. I'm about building from the grassroots. We really look at this as a grassroots opportunity to work with artists, and I'm excited to work with every artist, bivocational, part-time, full-time, no matter what it is. If they've got a talent for doing this, and if this is what they feel, then we want to work with them. If they feel this is where God wants them, we want them to be a part of the events that we do throughout the year, and especially Creekside, which is our big event each year, which we feel is going to continue to grow. We're we don't know if our audience is going to be up. We assume so, because if you do deduction, we're up almost 40% on hotel sales this year over last year. So hopefully people will not just rent the hotel room, but they'll actually come and be at the event. If that's the case, then we're going to be up quite a bit this year. Nice. Now, if they just rented their hotel room and they don't come, I'm okay with that, because I still rented them a hotel room.
That's right. That's right. Question for you, and I'm going to ask you this more for myself than for other folks, and I'm going to pick your brain for myself, because we started this 6 months ago, roughly. When we started, I heard from folks like yourself, and we talked briefly, and I heard from some other folks, and the fact you're on this radio, that you're on this podcast, I say radio, the fact you're on this podcast and you're a radio guy brings a spirit of cooperation in to me.
Sure.
Okay, so thank you for that.
Oh, definitely.
Why do you think, and maybe this is a hard question, and maybe it's not a hard question, but where is the spirit of cooperation a lot of times within the Christian media world, Rob? You've been doing this for 6-7 years. Where's it at? I mean, let's be honest. Is there a caste system out there. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, we've interviewed everybody from Jason Crabb to Ed Leonard, from Paul Howell to on down. But there is a segment that, for lack of a better word, stays away. Why is that? And do you see that on your side of the fence, or did you see that when you first started?
Goodness, as far as, I guess, for me to better answer the question, are you meaning that so certain people don't adapt to certain, like,
no. What I'm saying, no, not just podcast. I'm just saying certain people in certain entities within the industry don't recognize each other. And it's such a small industry to begin with. We all feed off of one another. If a radio station quits playing Southern gospel music, it affects not only the group, the people that works there, but the promoters, the publishing company, the writers, all the way down the line, okay? Mm-hmm. If one entity in the industry, say Rob Patz, takes his magazine and he shuns these folks, okay, and I'm not saying you do because I have no evidence of that, right, nor would I, but if you purposely shun somebody who has made impacts, does that benefit our industry whatsoever, or should we work more in cooperation? Does that make sense? Ask Ken over at Gospel Music TV the same thing, and so that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, you know what I think, Darren, and I'm going to be really honest with you, and I hope this doesn't come off like a politically correct answer, but I will tell you this: if anyone is like I am, I got off a plane yesterday. I flew from Seattle, which is my home, flew down to Atlanta, and then over here to the radio station that I own in Alabama. By the time I turned my phone on yesterday from the 5-hour flight, 5 hours and 22 minutes, I think was the total flight time. Mm-hmm. From the time I turned it off when I left Seattle till I got to Atlanta, and this is not to brag and this is not to say anything, but it's going to help my answer, I had 23 voicemails. So here's what I'm going to say. I don't know if they plan to shun or they're planning to not adapt. I think sometimes because of the economic side of our industry, people are just overwhelmed. And that's what there are times, and I've missed on some really great people in my industry. I've missed on them because sometimes they fell through the cracks of voicemails and things happening. And, I will, by the time that this year's over, I'll have been on the road 147 days out of, possible 365. So there are people that slide through the cracks of that kind of thing. So I guess that would be where I'm at. I think that overall it's a great industry. I'll tell you a quick story, and this is how I feel about it. Yeah. 1994, when I went, the first year it was in Louisville, which was my first year of the National Quartet Convention. I went there, and I knew some of the people, thankfully, up to that point, because I'd worked in radio, and I'd worked at a station in Seattle, which was, everybody thought was cool that we played Southern gospel music out there. So I knew some, but it really felt like when I got there that people were interested in me and wanting to know. And I think partially our busy worlds, I think all of the things that now connect us in a lot of ways also disconnect us. And I think in that sense, everybody's posting selfies and, hey, I do it on occasion. Darren, if you're my friend, every once in a while, I'm exercising. I'm really proud of myself. I'm down some weight. In fact, I did it this morning. Thanks to the great folks at the local fitness place. I took a picture and tagged them so that they'd know that I was using my membership and didn't just buy it and pretend like I was. And, but I think partially there's that level of disconnection that happens now. There are a lot of great speakers out there, much better than I am, who will tell you that the world that we live in, we're missing out on so much because instead of listening and instead of developing new ideas, which is my big thing, developing new ideas, developing new things. Every day, I have a list of things I have to do, and then the things that I'm developing. I have a list for the radio station. I have a list for the magazine. I have a list for Creekside, and every day I try to work on something new. And so I guess if I answered it, which I hope I did, I would say partially we're so understaffed in this industry that sometimes I think that's where it may come off that it looks like we're not paying attention. It's not that we're not paying attention. It's just that we're not able to cover everything.
Gotcha.
I guess that would be my...
Do you find, and I like asking you this question because you're in Seattle, okay? In the South, for instance, except in the metro Atlanta area, and you can even find it in the metro Atlanta area somewhat, but if you took geography between Orlando north from Orlando to the south to Columbus, Ohio to the north, to the far eastern shore of Maryland out to Texas, and you took a pen, you could cover that area, and you could say 70 to 80% of people know what Southern gospel music is. So it's received in a good way. When we get out of that area, Rob, and we go to the Northeast, or we go to the high Midwest, and we go to the far West where you're located, or we go to California, or even Canada, what are you seeing as the reception to Southern gospel music in those areas? And do you think, like I think, and I'm going to be the first to say this, that perhaps the name Southern gospel limits our growth?
Wow, that's the $1 million question right there. First and foremost, now for your hypothesis, you're saying 80% of the people that live in those areas actually know what Southern gospel is?
I'm assuming, and that's using one demographic.
That's really high. If you think that number's that high, I'm really happy. But I'm surprised that it's
here's how I base that number. Okay, and here's how I base the conversation. If you and I were in Heflin, Alabama tonight, okay, and you and I walked into the American Legion bar. Okay, because every American Legion has a bar, I think, or something like that. And we walked in there, and the guys shooting pool in there, and we walked in there, and they were all drinking their Budweiser, and they were shooting pool, and we said, how many of you guys like gospel music? I would venture to say 80% of that demographic in there would raise their hand. And they would say, yep, my grandmother sang, will the circle be unbroken? Jesus loves me. I remember this guy coming to my church when I was a little kid. So they have some semblance of knowledge of what gospel music is.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm getting where you're at now. Okay. So I got the first.
Yeah. So once we get out of this area, this Bible Belt area, that there is a, sort of a kinship to it, and we get out into areas in the other part of the country, what is the reception to Southern gospel music or gospel music, and does the name Southern limit its growth, do you feel like? Because I look at my numbers. Okay? Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, other than the United States, and I mean, I can tell you city and state where we're getting downloads. When I look at a place like Ireland, and I look at the numbers we get in Ireland, it blows my mind. And I wonder sometimes, do we, as Southern gospel music fans, limit the growth? And I've had artists, say to me that clearly sing to the Southern gospel crowd, say, don't say Southern gospel when you mention me. And you've had the same thing, in your magazine. They want to be known as Christian music artists. So if they're seeing it, and you know what, culturally taking the name Southern off in the South is just another stake in the eye because they want us to take down statues and this, that, and other. That's a conversation for another day. I'm wondering from you, though, since you are from Seattle, do you see it limiting the growth? And do you see people in Seattle say, you know what, I'm not listening to that Southern twang because it sounds backwoods, or I'm not. What do you see out there? That's what I'm getting at.
Wow, that's a broad-based question. You're going to kill me here, too.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Let me say this. I would ask Danny Jones or Kevin Anderson the same question, but unlike you, they won't come on the air with me. So you know what? Hey.
They're probably smarter once I'm done with this answer.
No.
No, I think, here's what I think. I think that, of course, now I love the heritage. Yeah. That is Southern gospel.
I do, too.
And I love that part of our industry. I love what it's become. I'm now grown up. I mean, when I started, as I told you, I was sophomore in college.
Yeah.
So I've grown up around this business, spent the last 25 years of my life around it.
Yeah.
And so I love it, and I want it. Here's my thought on this. I don't know if it limits, to be completely really frank with you. Mm-hmm. I think our biggest problem and our the toughest thing that we run into is we don't get the penetration into markets that other people have. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the case. I have a friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name because he may listen to this. He's a friend on Facebook. He lives in the Seattle area with me. He had no clue what I did for a living. And finally one day I handed him a couple of different groups, and I had him listen to them. I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you these CDs. You can have them. And I want you to listen to them with an open mind. And then we're going to meet we meet probably every few months for coffee. We went to college together. And he came back the next time. He goes, I love this music, and I bought X, Y, and Z group. Do you know these people? And I said, yeah, actually, I know them personally. And he's like, I love their stuff. He now goes to, anytime we have a Gaither event out there, anything like that, he does it. So I think in the end, no, I'm really not sure that the name Southern hurts us as much as the lack of education towards what our music really is.
Yeah.
I think that, Darren, I think that is it. And your number at 80%, I think, is even high. And I'll
it is
go out on a limb on this and pay. I would buy 60, even here in the South. I would buy 60%, 80, probably not.
And you know what? You just realized the songs that you said could have been sung by Porter Wagner, Hank Williams, or anyone like that. So you almost have to then say, hey, do you know who Bill Gaither is? And they'll say, yes, I know who that is. And then you start to go even here in the South now, because I don't know that it's even that much penetration as far as 60%. If you start saying a group, and I'm not going to mention the name because then they say, well, you picked on me. But I'm saying if you were to say this group, they may not know who that is, but they'll know a song. Like you said, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And they'll go, yeah, I heard, Porter Wagner did that on the Ground Old Opry,
Or, whatever. I don't know. In fact, I know so little about old country music that I'm going to just get embarrassed here if I keep going down this road.
No, that was my next thing. I don't think... Here's what I think about gospel music fans. New gospel music fans in particular, or casual gospel music fans. I don't know that if we've educated them enough to be gospel music fans, or they're just country music fans, and when they hear gospel, they enjoy it because it sounds what they listen to on a regular basis. Is that fair?
I would say it's fair. I would say, here's the thing.
You're dealing now with a generation, which is my generation, that is not as solid. I know 20 years ago they would have said, well, they're going to they morph into Southern gospel fans when they hit a certain age. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in that reality anymore. I am that age. I'm in my mid-40s to late 40s. I'm actually closer to late 40s. I'm actually closer to 50.
Well, you're right there on me. I'm 49, so,
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
So you don't morph into a Southern gospel fan. But you also don't become just a fan of one genre. And that is, I think, the thing that we're going to have to understand
as we move forward as a genre of music is that the people that are my age didn't just listen to one kind of music. Mm-hmm. I always get tickled when these people get on and they're like, Georgia, Florida line, that's not country. And I'm like, yeah, it is country. It's country the way it is now because country has morphed. Now, does that mean I like Georgia, Florida line? Yeah, actually, I do like Georgia, Florida line, but that's just me. I like that style of music because, to be honest with you, and the smart part of the music industry is they realize that my generation listened to very similar music to that, what was called pop, in the 80s and 90s. When I was in middle school and then into high school, that's what we listened to. So they're smart enough to know to catch my generation to continue to listen to their radio stations. They're going to play music that has a similar style. Now, does that mean I don't like Hank Williams? No, I love Hank Williams. Here's where I'm going with my point, though. My generation isn't going to listen to one thing. If you looked at my iPhone, the music I have downloaded, you would say that I just am totally all over the board. I've got Bruno Mars. I've got Georgia, Florida line. I've got Bruce
Bruce Carroll. I love Bruce's music.
Yep.
And then I've got some Southern Gospel. I have Triumphant in there. I've got some Jeff and Sherry Easter. I have Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. I go all over the place because music to me moves me in the moment. Music paints a picture. I come from a family of professional musicians. My father and mother both worked professionally as musicians. And so I come from it in a different way. And I love all kinds. I grew up listening to B.B. King and all kinds of stuff. My dad was a pastor, and we still had all of that kind of music. I was introduced to everything from big band to all the stuff in the 60s and everything else and into the 70s. And so I think, Darren, honestly, we as an industry have to continue to morph and understand that the audience that we're going to have over the next 10 years is different than the audience even that we have right now. And that's really, I think, with our magazine, we went with the digital download. We've got a digital version where you can actually read it just right on the website. You don't have to download it.
Yeah.
And then we still have the print. Because to be honest with you, my generation, your generation, we kind of every once in a while like to hold something in our hand.
I read the Wall Street Journal hardcore every day of my life. Except Sunday when it's not there. So
yeah, I was going to say I when they took the pictures off, I stopped watching reading that. But I guess that's what is going to have to happen. Do I think the name hinders? Not really as much as it has to be the education, and it has to be almost to a grassroots return to getting churches. I think the success of praise and worship music and of that is because it is sung at our church every week. I know every song. You probably do too. If you go to a church service every week, I can tell you songs from every group. I know enough Hillsong songs to probably fill an album that I can sing off the top of my head.
Yeah, but and some gospel music fans will say you're going to hell, Rob, for listening to Hillsong. You realize that, don't you?
Well, then they shouldn't listen. Then luckily they don't know the rest of the stuff on my iPad. And
I know.
Because,
I'm giving you a hard time.
Trust me, I'm a pastor's kid. That wouldn't be the first time they told me I was going to hell.
There you go.
But no, but I think, and that's true, and I love those people. I love people that are so devoted, so hardcore to our industry. I love those folks, and I want them to be a part of it. They're the people I count on every day to read my magazine and to come to my events. But we also need everybody else too, and that's the fine line you have to walk, and that's where I sometimes go, well, how do we do this? How do we walk that line? Between the two, like you talked about country music and Southern gospel. I think, to be honest with you, I think there's a great marriage there that has yet to be really ever developed because a lot of these current country artists have a connection to gospel music in general.
Bingo.
And, I think that you have to gently do it, and that's always a difficult tightrope that you have to walk. And we did that with the magazine. We had Zach Williams on the cover. First time a Southern Gospel magazine, I'm sure, ever had a contemporary Christian singer on the cover. But we talked. There's a reason for it. Zach, of course, wrote Chainbreaker, which is Triumphant Song. Zach's story is amazing. If you don't like Zach Williams after you read that story, you need to go back and reread it because this guy is just amazing. His life story and what he went through and how the song came about. I mean, that was a few months ago. We wrote that. And we did have, Darren, I had a few people who told me basically they'd never read the magazine again. But you know what I also had? It was the biggest download month in the history of our magazine. And I will tell you this, I have 15 emails from people who said, I'm not even a Christian, but I've been reading about the artists besides Zach. And they were attracted because they saw Zach and Zach looked stuff. I called Zach after it was over and I said, could you gone with a little less scary picture for us?
Yeah.
Because I said, seriously, if I'd have seen you in an alley, I'd have sworn you were going to take my wallet. And he's laughing, but people really connected with the story. It was a great picture, by the way. He looks awesome in it. But, I tease him about the fact that it looked like he was going to roll me in an alley for my wallet. But it was the fact that I had these 15 emails from people who didn't even know that it was a Christian magazine, just saw it come up because we're a part of several. We're very fortunate to be
connected with Google's news service and a couple other places. And so Zach's picture came up because it looked cool. I'm sure to the folks at Google, they didn't even read the magazine, I'm sure, but it looked cool. And you know what? Got those people that wanted to know the gospel because of it. And if we can make that impact, Darren, at the end of the day, I do a lot of things, as you described all the stuff, all the plates that I have in the air, but I would let all of them drop at the end of the day if I can reach one person and tell them that there is a Christ who loves them so much that he died for them. And that's why I do this. I was talking to my staff here at the radio station today. I said, if we can reach and change one person's life today here at the radio station, then we've accomplished exactly our goals. Now, we have other goals that we need to accomplish, but if we miss on all those goals, if we reach and uplift one person and change one person's life, then we've succeeded today. And that's what I want this music to do. And I truly believe it can do.
Last question for you, Rob, and I know you've been so gracious with your time and everything. Let's say you've got me, other folks that are in the industry sitting in a room, and you got 60 seconds, and you're standing up there and you say, hey, guys, I've been doing this for 25 years, 10 of you, which I've had this magazine, I've got these concerts. We've got to get out of the box together. So you got Gaither sitting there, you got Gerald Wolf sitting there, you got Kevin Anderson sitting there, you've got Paul Howell sitting there, you've got all the industry, Arthur Rice, Jerry Goff, you've got, Charlie Waller and Buddy Burton, and just a whole, plethora. We need to throw some women in there. You got Karen Peck, and you got, Jackie up at GMA. You've got them sitting in there, and you say, we've got to grow gospel music. What are you saying to them, Rob?
Good. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Darren, for having me on your podcast. I love this. I love your podcast. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Pray that it blesses a ton of people. That first and foremost.
That's our goal. Our goal, real simply, Rob. We've said this since day one: inspire, encourage, edify, and entertain. If we do that, we've done our job. We've done our job. But,
well, and then you had me on, so at least you won't get the entertain one on, but at least you get the rest.
No, man.
And then, no, I guess I wasn't edifying either, so I guess, we're going to start checking off the list.
You were edifying, you are entertaining. Keep going. But you
well, here's first and foremost, if I'm in this make-believe room with all these people, I'm not saying a word. I'm smart enough not, because all of those folks that you just talked about are 10 times smarter than I am.
Yeah.
But if I did get a chance to stand up and say something, I would probably say this in a brief sense. I'd say, thanks, guys, for letting me even be in this room with you. By the way, the donuts are really good. Thank you, Bill. But I would say
Tony Gore would cater that meeting. You realize that?
Oh, Tony's catering it. Well, then I want those barbecue chips that he has up at the restaurant.
Right.
Those things are insane.
Yeah. Yep.
So here's what I would say. I would say don't give up, but let's look at every side that we have not looked at. The one challenge that I've had, and I have a great mentor who works completely out of this part of gospel music, and he's been my mentor for several years, a very well-known person in Christian music world. And he and I connected, and he said, listen, I want to mentor you and teach you what I know because I want to pass it on. So I would pass this on is do the things that are uncomfortable. 8 years ago when I started Creekside, it was uncomfortable. When I went and bought a digital magazine, it was uncomfortable. When I started SGM radio and no one else had internet radio at all and people were trying to figure out how to do it, it was uncomfortable. The one part about our industry that I'm always sad about is we've gotten too comfortable. If we can go into the world and explain to them about this fantastic music, which spells out the gospel in such an incredible, easy way in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, it might be uncomfortable. And we might not always have the accolade that we deserve. And we may go into places where people have no clue who we are. And we may sing to 10 people. But let's go be uncomfortable and spread the good news of the gospel through Southern gospel music.
Rob, great answers, man. I appreciate your time today. Real quick, tell folks how they can get your digital magazine, where they can find you, where they can find out more information about Creekside, go join you, because I know you're promoting it. Our buddy Robert York's promoting it, and I'm driving Robert York crazy at the same time on my comments on his Facebook page. I just got to say that to get my old friend fired up a little bit, but he's a good man. I
love Robert.
Robert's a good fella, but tell folks how to find out about it, Rob. And let me say this personally about you before this. You and I have talked briefly, and I guess what did we talk about 5 months ago? Briefly on the phone, okay?
Yeah, about 5 months ago, yeah.
You know, you hear about folks from third and fourth party sources and even second party sources a lot of times. But until you get down to the bare facts and you get a chance to talk to somebody one-on-one like I get to do week after week after week in this music, you don't ever get to really hear their heart personally. And if I don't say anything else to you in my lifetime, I want to thank you for this. Thank you for being real and being transparent and showing your heart, because you've got nothing to gain other than potential fans by doing this interview, okay? And people can say, Rob, Darren's going to ask you some crazy stuff. Well, Darren always asks everybody on his podcast crazy stuff, you know. But at the same time, when I hear answers from you, and I hear answers from Maurice Templeton, I hear answers from Peg McCamey that we don't get in broadcasting, because in broadcasting, as you well know, because you're a broadcaster, we're broadcasting to thousands. In podcasting, it's aimed at the individual. But your message is resonating with me today, and through discernment, I know it's going to resonate with thousands on the other side that get to listen not only next week, but weeks to come when they get a chance to listen to this program. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And you know, the one thing that I will take and say out of what you just said is that this is me. You know, I think one of the greatest things in life is to be a pastor's kid, because you learn early on that you are what you are and you can't change that. So I am who I am, and you either like me or you don't usually. There's very few in between.
Yeah.
There's very few Switzerlands when it comes to Rob Patz. But I'm thankful for that. And I truly am. My heart is to get people saved, to change this world, and to change it using a great form of music. I really believe when God gave me this calling, it was to help this industry in whatever little way I can, because you know, I'm nothing compared to a lot of the people you've mentioned in this time. And of course, Maurice Templeton is a hero of mine. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate to get to do this every day. I wake up and I'm excited. I want to do something more. I want to see it grow. I want more fans to be there. And it's not because it's not the numbers side, Darren. I don't want numbers. I mean, I don't care about numbers. I like numbers. I'm a competitive person. It's like if the guy next to me on the treadmill is going to go 5 miles, I'm going to go 6, you know. And it's stupid because we're not racing, but I have that competitive side. So I'd love to see Creekside full every year and growing and everything like that. But that isn't the reason why we do it. We do it to impact people. And one last quick story, because this was really cool. Lady came last year to Creekside, and I'm going to plug it here in a second. Lady came last year to Creekside. She was so depressed. She had lost her job singing at church. She was the church head of the church music department, and she'd lost her job. New pastor came in, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
She came to Creekside without a knowledge of where she was going or what she was going to do. And I'm going to actually tell this story from stage next week, but I'm going to tell it here first because I'm so excited about it. She came, she said, I was at the lowest point other than when my mother and father had passed away. I was at the lowest point in my life. And she said, I came in for 4 days. I was ministered to. And when I left, I prayed, and the first new church that I applied for, I got a new job. Not only that, Rob, your way of doing things inspired me to hold concerts in the area that I'm from. So I'm having my first concert in November, right after Creekside. She was coming back for this year. She said, I'll have my first concert next year. I'm having 4 in an area that never has had Southern gospel concerts. And so I am excited about that. That has nothing to do with me. I had nothing to do with it. I put on an event, and great people that surround our event. We have fantastic folks from top to bottom who do everything. I do nothing comparatively. And so I don't take any credit for that, but that's the reason why we do Creekside. We do Creekside because I want people to come who are hurt. I want people to come who are exhausted. Creekside happens
Starting this week, we have kickoff on Sunday the 28th, and then we go the 29th through the 1st at the Smoky Mountain Convention Center in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It is going to be a lot of fun. We have very few VIPs tickets left. VIP tickets are fantastic because you get to sit up front and you get a gift bag every night. You can't beat that. I mean, just the gift alone is worth it. Yeah. And we have some free tickets left, but we're also getting very limited even on our free tickets. We still have some of those left. You can get our magazine. It's free. I'm a pastor's kid. I always joke about being very tight. In fact, my mom says I'm so tight I squeak when I walk. But I love free stuff. The magazine is free online. It's a digital. We do have a subscription price for if you want print version, but it's very reasonable also. And we just do what we do. That's SGNScoops.com. You can even find out everything about Creekside on the SGNScoops.com site. Get your news, find out what's going on, whether it's the top 100 songs of the month or what's happening with any group or artist. If they send us the news, we put it on there and help promote the industry.
Well, thank you, my friend. And Scoops is good. And people need to get your email alerts because I'll be frank with you. I find out more on your email alerts, not your email alerts, your Facebook alerts, than I do any other industry publication unless it comes from somebody directly. So thank you for that. I'm glad. I use the stuff on our Facebook site.
Well, that's awesome.
That's the truth.
Share away. In fact, we want everybody to share. And yes, go over, like us on Facebook, SGN Scoops. It's just real easy. And we, as Darren says, we post stuff, and we hope to never overpost. But you know what? We love to post stuff. We post about concerts. We post concerts. If it's Facebook Live, we'll post it because I want this. It's the fact that if we all work together, we grow. I can have my little bit over here, my little farm, and if my little farm grows only potatoes, then my family's going to only eat potatoes. But I have a taste, Darren. Well, I'm fat. That's why I'm working out. I have a taste for everything from steak to corn to beef. So I like to share with other farmers. And that's kind of the way I look at this is I want to share with everybody. I want everyone to be successful, and I want them to grow just as much as we do because when we work together, we all grow.
All right. Rob, thank you for your time again, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Don't be a stranger, all right?
Thanks.
Arthur, Rob, was a great interview. You didn't get to hear it.
I didn't. What did he say about me?
He told me how, and the people have already heard it, so I don't want to waste their time, but he told me how they chose you and what specifics they went through to choose you and what the nominating process and all that was.
Wow.
And who you need to thank for it.
Well,
and
yes.
Who you need to pay under the table for it. So I didn't have nothing to do. Here's something we're going to do in coming weeks, Arthur, and I'm going to throw this out to you real quick.
Uh-huh.
We're going to talk about old hymns from time to time. The Redback Book. You grew up on the Redback Book, did you not, Arthur?
Oh, yeah.
Church
absolutely.
Hymn. What's hymn number? I'm going to put you on the spot again.
Lord.
Hymn number 333.
That's so it's I'll Fly Away?
I'll Fly Away.
Yeah.
120.
Just Little Talk of Jesus?
No, Victory in Jesus.
Victory in Jesus. Victory in Jesus. Yeah.
All right. If you don't
92 is Just Little Talk of Jesus.
Yeah, 92 is. 57.
Yeah.
57.
Oh, that's Amazing Grace. Everybody knows
that. If you don't know this one, Hamill's going to come up out of his grave and get you this Halloween, okay?
Oh, no.
166.
Leave Your Sorrows Come Along?
Yep. Yeah. How was that singing that for the Kingsmen back in the day?
Oh, it was fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
I love those old parts going everywhere and everybody singing a different line, and those are fun.
Yep, Gerald Wolf's done a good job of that. In Creekside, this coming up week's going to have a Redback singing, and our old friend who used to be with us, Charlie Sexton, is going to be leading that up there. Charlie does that from time to time, and Gerald Wolf's done a great job with these hymn singings, and I've got a good friend, Lamar Newton, who actually is the originator of all of it. He kind of started it back in the day, and he's told me he may come on with us from soon. But
that'd be good.
It would be fun. Arthur, before we close, I want to say this about Rob Patz with SGN Scoops in Creekside. I appreciate him coming on because and I'm saying this in all honesty, there there's some people, for whatever reason, that we've asked to come on the show, and I'm not picking at them. They've just decided not to come along. And we've been fortunate to have pretty much everybody. I mean, when you do 50 shows in gospel music, there's still some great folks coming along, and we've still got some great things that we're planning in the future. I mean, Bill Gaither, Eddie Crook, Buddy Burton, Charlie Waller. I mean, you just named the name. We're just working on getting them lined up and getting the things done. Tim Lovelace actually is going to be with us next week and going to be doing a show. But it's good to see, just like groups work well together, the Kingdom Heirs, are there at Dollywood all the time. It thrills their heart that when they get to go on the road, they work with Tribute or they work with Gold City or they work with the Kingsmen. It always makes it fun with them. It's fun for us to work with other media, and it's fun to see the perspective Rob brings through Creekside, through his magazine, his digital magazine, I might add, which is great in the industry, and all that. The only thing I'd say from there, Arthur, is I'm sorry about one thing.
What's that?
That I didn't win the $1.6 billion lottery this week. But, because if I would have won the $1.6 billion lottery this week, I would have made SGNP a full corporation and put you on the payroll, and me and you would finally get paid for doing this. What do you think?
Hey, that'd be fun. If I'd have won it, I'd put it on my bills just as far as it go.
That's it. I never will forget this as long as Dad live. This is 20-something years ago when Georgia first had the lottery. The guy won it. Channel 2 goes out to interview him, and they ask him, what are you going to do with your check? And he said, I think, and this guy won $2 million, I think. He said, I think me and the wife are going to sell our house in Bremen or Tallapoosa, wherever they were. They were over in West Georgia. And we're going to buy us a new trailer in Alabama, and we might even put a screen porch on the outside. And I'm sitting there thinking, you just won $2 million. And you're going to buy, that's what makes us all different, what makes us all great. Arthur,
well, he had taken a grasp of the simplicity of life. And there's a lot to that. There really is.
There is. There exactly is. I'm going to say this before we close, and I've been meaning to say this, and I know we get 3,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 people listening to us a week, but Arthur, we truly need to pray for this country right now. We truly do. We know, we don't ever get into politics on this show. We're not going to. We're never going to. I know just from the interaction we get on social media where most people lean, but at the same time, we really need to pray for moderation and things to come back together because
it's scriptural.
Yeah.
It's scriptural. We're supposed to pray for our leaders, not only our country, but our leaders and the democracy that we have. And because what people understand is a lot of times they lose sight of the fact that because we are a free country, then our message can go out about Christ. And we need to pray that we stay that way.
Quick point before I'm going to close, and you're going to laugh at this. You don't even know this, I don't think. I don't think I've never told you this. About 10 years ago, I believe it was. No, not 10. It was 6 years ago because it was the night we had the snow jam here in Atlanta. Maybe 5 years ago in the wintertime. Night of the State of the Union. 5 of the guys that work for me get snowed in my office building. We sit there and we watch the State of the Union on TV, okay?
Mm-hmm.
As we watch the State of the Union on TV, President Obama, like him or not, he was our president, so we should respect him and move on because that's what my grandparents taught me how to do. You respect your leaders, that's scriptural. You respect the office. You may not respect the man, but you respect the office. I know I may get a lot of things. But I sat down the next day and wrote the man a letter, okay? Would you believe, this is a true story, and you can Google Darien Southerland and Joe Biden or Darien Southerland and Barack Obama. I've never given a dime politically to anybody. I wrote them a letter, Arthur. I told them that I didn't agree with what they just said, but my grandmother taught me as a young child how to pray for our leaders, and I was praying for them, and I hope they did the right thing. Would you believe I got a visit from Joe Biden to my office, and Barack Obama mentioned my name and my grandmother's name in 2 speeches, and that's a lady that never made more than $5 an hour, and the President of the United States mentioned her name, and that was a bright and shining point of light in my life. You know?
How about that?
Ain't that kind of cool?
That is cool. Yeah, it really is.
Buddy, one last question for you.
Yeah.
What's wrong with living right anyway?
Not a thing.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Tim Lovelace will be with us on SGNP.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, southerngospelnewspodcast.com. To advertise your products, services, concert event, or new project on SGNP and reach a 100% guaranteed number of people in your area, call Tim Newton at 770-874-3200 or email him today, tnewton@bgadgroup.com. Let us geo-target our ads for you, something radio nor magazine can do.
Hey, this is Darien Southerland. Before I close, I want to thank our affiliates out there. WLJA in North Georgia, KWFC in Springdale, Arkansas. The new one, The Andrew Burnett Show, heard all across the country, and online, TheLightAtlanta.com, playing Southern gospel music online. We're adding affiliates every day. We're partnering with Ken and the folks over there at Gospel Music TV real soon. So we look forward to that partnership. If your gospel music entity would love to partner with SGNP, get a hold of us. It's real simple. Folks, here's the deal. We've reached out to literally every form of media in gospel music. If we've missed you, I'm sorry. But we've had great partnerships with folks like Paul Heil and others. If you haven't heard someone on the air, it's not because we hadn't reached out. We hope everyone is successful, no matter if they're a radio station, a magazine, a website, a group, whomever it is. God bless you, and let's make gospel music better than it was today, tomorrow. Easy enough?
Ever wonder how the credit card companies make their money? Well, think about this. If you owe $25,000 on 5 different credit cards and you make your minimum payments every month, here's what it's going to cost you. Are you sitting down? You'll shell out over $13,000 in additional interest, and it's going to take over 13 years to pay off your original $25,000 balance. That's how they make money. Now it's your turn to fight back by calling the Debt Solutions Network. We'll work on your behalf to reduce your debt. We specialize in credit cards, retail store cards, and medical bills. We promise we can and will reduce your debt. Call right now for a free 15-minute debt analysis. 877-490-1207. 877-490-1207. 877-490-1207.